Hi there. Well again. Today there is something of interest. Caught my attention. I want us to deliberate, rub minds together. Is it deliberate? I just want to say. Do you know that there is something I've observed personally, particularly in the world, is that the world can be very good functioning on a tradition that is 100% against the will of God, and God may still not say anything. Not that God endorses it, but I mean, there can be a system, even in a religious setting, and can be adopted as maybe as a custom or a norm, or yeah, like a social standard, but and it's still not in alliance with the commandments of God. I'm just trying to tell you that something is acceptable or normal or adopted by a system or is popular, is trending, even if it's among religious community, doesn't make it, and at the same time, it still can be against, I mean, directly contradicting the commandments of God. So that's why you need to be very, very spiritually inclined, discerning, and evaluate things. That is what I was telling a pastor friend of mine, that I don't know how preachers of today actually view the scriptures. I mean, how they view, not the scripture, how they view themselves. Because if I recall vividly, Paul he commended the Berean Christians for going to search the scriptures after they have taught them. And after Paul had taught them, Paul and his companion had taught them from the scriptures, when they go home, they begin to examine those things from the scriptures they had to see if those things that was from the scriptures really aligned with the things that Paul taught in the synagogues or any other place. All right. But some of us and some of us today, both the listeners and the teachers, we don't like to question, and we don't like to be questioned. And that is very bad. Okay. I was reading in the scriptures in the book of Matthew. I'll put the verse on the screen. When Jesus Christ was accused of, his disciples first were, his disciples was accused to him that they disrespected the tradition of the elders by eating with unwashed hands. Ooh la la. And Christ said, wow, 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 wow. Then how do you then disrespect God by your tradition? No, this tradition has been in place many, many years. But who then know that it was in direct contrast with the commandments of God? Said, okay, you said whatever our parents get from us, and it's not like an entitlement, it's like a gift from us. And when it's not what the commandment to note, when it's not what the commandment of God said. So I took interest in this. I even called my daughter. I told her, I said, wow, we should be very careful in times like this, because that a religious community may be having a practice and sometimes it does not align with God. Then you can tell me, Mr. Ward, how can I build? I can build a lot of things on this, because who does knows the mind or the will or the intent of God better or other than Christ himself? And since Christ said it is against the commandment of God, what other explanation, what other documentary, what other whatever do we need to know that this is, gross with God? It's very bad. So my intent of making this video is, we should be careful, we should be spiritually inclined, not just take things as they are, because things that we are used to, because it is the practice, in many cases, even if it's not just sometimes, they can be conflicting the religion, no, the commandments of God, and yet it can still be upheld by the elders of religion, because the Pharisees were the peak of the holy men the Jews could see. Then even before the face of the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin was nothing, because they saw them as political. But then they didn't know that they were contradicting, and even if and their ego and whatever couldn't let them know that they were actually contradicting the mind of God. So God bless us. I hope you've been able to get something from this. So be careful of popular trend. Also always have a discerning spirit to know that when that this thing is accepted by the general public, doesn't make it godly. It doesn't make it the will of God. In most cases, sometimes, according to my observation, especially in days like these days, many of things that we have accepted as normal doesn't mean that they are godly or that God is okay with them. That God just hasn't said anything yet doesn't mean that He's okay with them. But God is looking for your mind to search it out, that this thing, is it okay? And we'll talk to you. Bless you.